Is your family tree a mystery? Are you fascinated by genealogy? Well, hip hip hooray, let's talk DNA with Julie.
The truth is in your genes.
In CutOff Genes.
Welcome to CutOff Genes, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson, and I am a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie.
And I am Richard Castle, the producer and co-host of this lovely podcast. What are you up to, Julie?
I'm dancing.
She is dancing. She's in a good mood today. And if I sound a little far away from my microphone, it's because I've got a dog on my lap. For some reason, it's actually winter here now in Southern California.
Brr.
And by cold, we mean like 50 degrees. That's like spring weather everywhere else in the world.
It is cold, though.
But it is cold.
For us. I mean, I have my heated booties out.
Do you really?
I love my heated booties.
I need to put the flannel sheets on the bed. I actually turned on. Here's the thing. I am not handy around the house at all. However, the other day I tried to turn on our gas fireplace and it wouldn't light because it's been like a year since I've had to turn it on. But it was cold. And I'm like, okay, do I really want to call somebody to like repair it? No, I'm going to try to fix it. And the impetus was that my dog was shivering. And I'm like, suddenly, my dog is cold. I've got to do anything.
My dog is cold,
My dog is cold. I'm like Shirley MacLaine in terms of endearment. Give my dog the fireplace. So believe it or not, I took my whole fireplace apart. I cleaned all, I looked at a video on YouTube.
Oh, I do that all the time.
And I cleaned all these little
everything.
contacts between metals and stuff like that. And then I turned it on and sure enough,
It worked.
it worked. And the
You
place
gotta love that.
and the place didn't blow up or anything.
That's a bonus right
Because
there.
anytime you're dealing with gas and flames,
That's
I'm like,
terrifying,
a little
frankly.
terrifying.
Yeah.
That or electricity, I don't like it.
Yes.
No,
I don't either.
But you know what? It works great.
Good.
And it's warm.
Well,
and
congratulations.
that's why my dog is on my lap, because there's no sun today for him to lay in while we do the podcast.
It's positively dreary looking outside.
And so the dog is on my lap. But, even dreary here, it's not, we're not in the middle of a snowstorm like they are back east.
Anyway, okay. So let's talk about DNA.
Oh, that's what we're here for, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's right.
I always forget.
Yep. Here we go. Hey, there was a recent episode of What Would You Do? Do you ever watch that?
I don't.
With John Quinones. It puts people in uncomfortable situations with hidden cameras and makes people behave poorly, very loudly, so the people around them have to react.
Oh, I thought it was going to be something to do with the song from the musical Cabaret. What would you do?
What would you do?
It wasn't in the movie, folks. You really have to know the musical.
Yes. I did it at Neil's New Yorker in New Jersey.
Did you really?
Do you know what Neil's New Yorker is?
I have no idea, but it sounds like
It's
some
a dinner
kind of
theater.
dinner theater. I was just going to say.
It's a dinner theater that's in Mountain Lakes, New Jersey. And if we didn't catch the last train into the city, the last bus into the city, we would have to spend the night there. And so sometimes if we were running late, we would pick up the pace on things.
What would you do? What would you do?
It was ridiculous. There were a couple times where we got hysterical because we were going so fast.
You're singing the title song from Cabaret. And it's not like a disco.
Yeah, it's fun. All right. So anyway, on this episode of What Would You Do, it had a daughter having lunch with her parents, and she pulls out an envelope and says, "Hey, I took one of those DNA tests, and I have the results right here. Let's look at them."
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
So her parents, like they do, how they have the little scene that they act out in the first place. To show you what's going to happen, and everybody overacts. It's like an infomercial.
Oh, okay. I don't watch the show,
okay.
so I don't know. But
well, that's what happens.
All right.
The parents look at each other, and then it's revealed that the daughter is an MPE. But she doesn't know. But
dear.
now these results are going to tell her.
What would you do?
What would you do? So it had, there were they did it a number of times where they're doing it so loudly in the middle of this restaurant and people are listening and, somebody gets upset and goes to the bathroom and so that they can talk to the other person. But aside from all that, a bunch of people, specifically MPEs, got incredibly triggered watching it.
Really?
Yes. Because, Gosh, you know what? It felt like something that is such a huge thing in people's lives was being trivialized.
Yeah. And it's kind of an ambush situation, too, because she didn't know that this was going to happen, and suddenly she's confronted with something, right?
Who?
The person on the show.
Everybody, they were, the people in the scene were all actors.
Oh.
Including the girl with the test.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was like a reality show. See, obviously I don't watch it, so I...
Oh, my gosh.
Well, they didn't know when they read the script.
No, they made the situation up.
Gotcha.
To see how laymen, how people in the restaurant saw what was going on would react to people. And generally it's somebody exhibiting poor behavior.
Right.
And so in this case, it was the parents getting mad at her and getting up and storming out because she was doing this, or her dad telling her that that he wasn't really her father. And regardless. So
it's basically like Candid Camera is what you're telling me, right?
Yeah, it's Candid Camera in the worst possible way.
Right. Okay.
So yeah,
was Fanny Flagg involved?
Nope. Is Fanny Flagg alive still?
I don't know, but she was great on the Candid Camera of the 70s when I was a kid.
And she wrote Fried Green Tomatoes.
She did.
Okay.
She was on Match Game a lot too.
That's all I got. Okay. I was trying to top you, but I can't. Anywho, my feeling about it as to why people were triggered, MBEs specifically, is, and it's true, as somebody who's just watching the situation from the side and is not in it, their first instinct is always to say, he's still your father. He'll always be your father. You're still the same person you always were. This is like from a list of things never to say to an adoptee or an MPE, because these are all things that we know. Yes, I know he's my father. I know that he's the one that raised me. I know that doesn't change who I am in your eyes. But it's such a deeper pain for those who have been through it, than that it felt like it was being trivialized, and the trivial responses people around them were having felt even worse, even though they were absolutely trying to help and be supportive.
Right.
But it just it felt disingenuous.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, anytime something is a situation like that is manufactured for entertainment purposes, basically, it's going to be trivialized in a way. But, you almost can't blame the people who were saying those things because,
no,
like
what else
anyone,
are they going to say?
People don't know what to say in certain situations. And if they're trying to be helpful, you have to look at where it's coming from and not what they're saying,
Right.
But I guess it's sort of like going to an improv show and suddenly they improv something that's it's close to home. But you got to deal with it. You're at the but even there you're going to an improv show, so you figure you're there for entertainment. The people in the restaurant aren't necessarily there to be filmed.
Can I just tell you, if I were in a restaurant and somebody was behaving the way some of these people behave on this show, I would be looking for the cameras and shouting for John Quinones to hurry up and come out. Because I can smell it a mile away.
Can you?
Yes.
See, I play piano in restaurants, and I see a lot of crazy stuff happen with families at tables and things like that, and I overhear a lot. And so I wouldn't necessarily think there was any kind of entertainment value because I see how crazy some people really are.
Yeah. That is true. That is true.
People, see, I'm not one to make a scene in any kind of public place, and I hate being involved in it. Yeah. And I'm even uncomfortable when someone else is making a scene, and I have nothing to do with it. And I'm just sitting there, innocent bystander. It makes me uncomfortable. But I've seen a lot of people who are not afraid to make scenes in restaurants. And,
yeah, me too. I think there's maybe a 50-50 breakdown on that, because what I have discovered in my long life is that, you used to think, well, that family is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? All families are crazy.
We're all crazy.
Nobody is normal, guys. Yeah. So everybody has secrets and skeletons in the closet, and don't even try to pretend that everything about your family is perfect, because that's a fallacy and a myth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
But I will just say, in this whole like trigger culture, I will say that we spoke last week about boundaries on our podcast, and you have to have them in real life because you can get triggered by anything in life just on the street, and you have to be able to deal with it. You have to be able to have the power to say, okay, I can go home and cry about it later or think about it and process or whatever it may be. But, we can't control our environment when we're out in the public and things happen that affect you. Like,
what's interesting is that I deal with things better in public or in situations where I am out and about because I'm very much a let's just go with the flow kind of person.
Yeah.
But it's later when I think about it, when I'm by myself, that it triggers me, that I start to think, oh my gosh, did that really happen?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Or like even like when you, you're driving and you see a horrible accident, and you wish that you hadn't seen what you saw.
Oh,
you feel badly, right? And then later you're like, oh my God, I cannot get that horrible crash out of my head. It's terrible. But, what are you supposed
PTSD.
to do? Right.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do other than move on
deal with
it and say, well, you either never drive again.
Which is not an option.
Yeah. But, you just have to kind of move on because I could go through life being triggered every moment.
I am triggered every moment. My husband has said that I am one big walking button that you could just push. Like,
that's funny. I don't see that about you, but he knows you better.
Well,
so.
he does. Yeah. And I am the first to admit that I am a high maintenance individual, and not in a bad way. That's a weird thing to say, but I mean, I'm not like I don't expect treatment in certain, and I don't want fine things and stuff like that. But I know about myself that I am hyperreactive and very easily uncomfortable physically.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I don't like I hate tags on things. It's that thing. I hate tags. I have tactile issues.
Oh, like when you feel a tag on your neck or something?
Or like certain fabrics, I could, like on certain days I couldn't wear them. What are you thinking?
I thought that you meant like if you saw someone who's had a tag.
Tagging?
Someone who had a tag sticking out, you couldn't stand it. Because one time when I was in college, I'm not kidding you, I was in college and I'm walking down the quad or whatever, and there was a guy in front of me who had like the little tag hanging out from his shirt, and I wasn't even thinking, I just became like focused on it, and I went over and reached and fixed it for him. And then as I was doing it, I realized, what are you doing?
You're touching
a stranger. And he turned around and I just said, oh, your tag was showing. And then I ran away.
And then you shriveled up and
which is the most ridiculous thing. Like if somebody did that, somebody touched me in public.
I've done that.
I'd be horrified.
I don't think in that situation I would have because that would be like crossing the quad to do it. But I have been like standing in line for something and the person in front of me, their tag is out. Yeah. And I've just kind of said, your tag's out.
Yeah, you can,
like poked it back in.
Telling them.
But at the same time that I'm touching them.
Yeah. Oh, and I didn't run across the quad to fix it. He was like walking in front of me. Like we were both walking.
Okay.
And I was walking for, 5 minutes going, oh my God, that tag is out and it needs to be back in. Isn't that dumb? I wouldn't do that today. I was 18, and I think the culture was a little different too. That you can't reach out, and even then it wasn't appropriate. But I don't think it was considered as offensive.
Yes, exactly.
Into your personal space as it is today.
Yeah. Well, you used to be able to go to a pregnant woman and just touch her stomach too.
Right. It's so true.
Remember that? Let's talk about something completely different.
Why not?
All right. An Oregon doctor who says his donated sperm was used to father at least 17 children in violation of an agreement that allowed for no more than 5 children filed a $5.25 million lawsuit against Oregon Health and Science University.
Oh, wow.
So Bryce Cleary said he could have even more children from the sperm donations made 30 years ago when he was in medical school. He believes that the fertility clinic was incredibly irresponsible.
I guess I never knew that there were limits when you did donate sperm.
Obviously there weren't, but I think he was told they were.
Oh,
there
I
were.
see. Okay.
Right.
All right. I just assumed that when you did that, it was like, well, 1,001 frozen pops.
Wow.
That's a Simpsons reference, folks.
Oh my God.
When Marge's sister Patty or Selma, one of the two twins, wants to decide she wants to have a baby, and so she goes to a sperm bank and she's looking through the book, and the book is called 1,001 Frozen Pops. And she says, "Oh, look, one of the sweat hogs." And the other one says, "I checked, it's not Horseshack."
We digress.
We digress.
Okay.
Anyway, about this lawsuit.
So about this lawsuit. So he held a news conference, and one of the children that he had was with him, 25-year-old Allison Alley. And they just met, but she was there with him to share her concerns. He said the idea that you can produce that many children from one donor and throw them all in the same region is what concerns him. And that's a legit concern, I think.
Oh, because they don't know that they're related to other people and that there's a possibility.
They could date them or marry them.
Do you think anybody ever thought of that when they were doing this sperm donation? I mean, I don't mean the client. I'm talking about the company. Do you think that was something they
Obviously not.
Yeah,
I think they were just hedging. Again, I think they were hedging their bets and didn't think that DNA testing would be a thing. You know.
There are no more secrets, people.
There are no more secrets.
Yeah.
So after he donated his sperm, he married and had 3 biological sons and adopted a daughter. He's learned that at least 2 of the offspring conceived through the program have attended the same schools, church, or social activities as one of his sons and his daughter, according to the lawsuit.
Wow. Fascinating.
See?
Wow. All the repercussions from things that, we
Right.
just never thought would... I never considered, but
Yeah, well, yeah.
somebody did.
Yep. So apparently he said that he had an agreement with the clinic to that none of the donations would be used in state.
Oh.
I think that was part of his deal. Where is it? Where does it
Well,
say?
he would have to... I mean, does he have that in writing? He
Probably
must.
not.
He must, because that lawsuit would be thrown out in a heartbeat if he didn't have some kind of something in writing, right?
Well, no, I think it's I don't think so. I think he is basically talking about a conversation that he's had.
All right.
And I don't think I think just the fact that the clinic misused his sperm, I think he thinks is enough for a lawsuit.
He was obviously really fertile, and they wanted to use that,
Like my friend Peter.
Okay.
Remember Peter?
Refresh my memory.
With 26 kids?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's talking about more than that. This guy, right?
He only has 17 right now.
Oh, he's not up to...
Peter's up to 26 that we know of.
Now, does Peter's biological children, are they all in the same area like this guy said his kids are?
No. But there are several because
Yeah.
he donated in LA. They're up and down. No, they're all over the place, but mainly on the West Coast. But I think there are some East Coast kids too. But yeah, they're all, yeah.
It's a small world after all, Julie.
Sure is, Richard. Yeah.
And we're all related somehow.
Sometimes more so than we need
More
to
than
be.
yeah, more than we need to be.
So Allie, who attended the news conference with him, says that she sees the potential for problems. She's expecting her 3rd child, and the idea that her children having dozens and dozens of cousins that will be their ages and in the area is concerning. So Cleary's attorney, Christopher Best, said fertility clinics are lightly regulated and that most of the government rules they must follow have to do with maintaining privacy between donors and recipients and severing any legal obligations sperm donors owe to their offspring, which is true. But
Yes.
yeah, that's a big concern. I'm right there with him.
Let's take a break.
If you're enjoying Cutoff Genes, please subscribe, rate, and review. Now, back to Julie and me.
Okay, so this is a lawsuit heavy day.
Are you suing me again, Julie?
Again. Okay, listen to this one. In 2017, an Illinois woman filed suit against a sperm bank she patronized. Patronized would be if she was making fun of it. Patronized, claiming
And they
that
sued her for patronizing.
claiming that her 2 children have autism and are among at least a dozen children in an autism cluster conceived with sperm from the same donor.
Oh, so she thinks that the autism was inherited and that was not screened out of the sperm donors.
Right, but is there an autism gene? In March, the company offered $250,000. Wow, that's all they offered to settle. So, and the woman agreed to drop the lawsuit. Oh, so they settled.
Huh.
Interesting. Autism is primarily a genetic condition. Most of the risks for autism comes from genes 1. Mutations in more than 100 genes are known to lead to the condition. There are 4 types of tests that can detect these mutations, as well as structural variations that may lead to autism. As researchers learn more about the genetics of autism, the tests have become more informative. More of the mutations they find have ties to autism and to known health consequences.
Well, I mean, I guess then, again, I've never donated sperm, or at least, for money.
You've given it as a gift.
Yeah, that's a gift. Not always wanted.
Yikes.
But I digress.
Wow.
Coming at you.
Good.
Anyway, what I'm saying is I'm sure that you have to fill out some kind of form about your health and all that when you donate. And they ask questions. But is any of that tested? In other words, do they test for genetic abnormalities?
I don't think so. I mean, they might say, do you have any autism in your family?
Right.
Or are you autistic?
But what if you don't know that? Or,
Exactly.
okay, I'm just going to play devil's advocate.
Yep.
You either don't know that you have autism in your family, or you know it and you want to get paid for the
Right.
donation.
You
And
don't
so
care.
you're going to say, oh, no,
Sure.
I don't have any cancer. I don't have any autism. I don't have any,
right. They're basically counting on people telling the truth.
Right.
So I think they should, again, science wins over everything else. And I think people should be tested.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree because you feel like that you could donate sperm or an egg or whatever you might be donating from your body, and they would always, I don't know, if you're going to donate blood, they're going to test the type it is.
Yeah.
Right? So you
Yeah.
want to know sort of if there's anything dangerous in there.
I'm wondering how new this is. The autism is genetic.
Right.
Because
right.
I don't know that much about autism, except for I think there are a lot more people on the spectrum than we realize.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a brother with Down syndrome. He is a little autistic, but I know that is something that is also hereditary. That there is Down syndrome in a family. Not that it goes from mother to son,
Right.
But I know that we have someone else in our family with Down syndrome, like a cousin or a distant cousin.
Right.
So that it is there.
Right. Well, and we inherit DNA. I'm sure we inherit that DNA the same way we inherit other DNA. We get different,
Right.
Different.
But I mean, even with
Parts
that
from each
doesn't
parent.
mean that like someone who donates sperm that has Down syndrome in his family, that every child conceived of that will have Down syndrome. That's not how it works.
Right.
So,
But there was a cluster. I'm wondering if they tested all the kids to see if they have the same father. Now that would be interesting to me.
yes. Yeah, for sure.
This article should have gone much further than this.
Right, because
I'm
like,
very dissatisfied
Yeah,
with it.
like is he some typhoid Mary of of autism? Like, was
It's
his
like,
sperm like
oh
some
my God,
toxic
he's
thing?
like the one,
Yeah.
the carrier of the autism. Moving on from that unsatisfying story.
But interesting.
Yes.
mean, I don't think it was. I think it was
It wasn't for
perfectly
naught.
valid for you to bring that up.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. This is actually a comment that somebody wrote on Facebook, who shall remain nameless, obviously, for obvious reasons. And I think it's really interesting, and I hope that this person posts a follow-up at some point because I'm really interested. So he said, I was adopted at birth. I used Ancestry, and 3 weeks later, I found out I was a high school accident. My bio dad had no idea I existed. He's cool, and I have 5 younger half-brothers and a half-sister on his side. Crazy enough, they live 20 minutes from me. Oh, surprise. Now my bio mom is I think he means she's a bit weird.
Yeah.
But I have 3 younger half-brothers. The oldest being a little too close to my age for the math to make sense.
Okay.
So he's not a big social media user, but emailed me a few pictures of himself. Now, mind you, he is less than a year younger than me, and we have different fathers. Problem is, when I viewed the pictures, I was looking at myself. Even my wife and close friends thought they were pictures of me. Biomom has changed her story a few times. That happens. So we both don't believe her stories. My so-thought half-brother appears to be my identical twin brother. He just ordered his test, so we're waiting for the results. I want the results.
Oh, my gosh.
Has anyone run across this kind of thing? And then he said, let me add, my birth certificate is issued in one state where I was confirmed born. He was issued in another state, and it says that he is 2.5 months younger than me.
Huh.
Isn't that crazy? The fact that he really looks like him is one thing. I mean, genetics does that. But the fact that their birth certificates say they are 2.5 months apart and have the same mother, that's super suspicious.
Yeah.
I've been looking at this for a while and looking for follow-ups from him, and I haven't found one, which is disappointing because I would really like to know what that DNA test says.
Is there any way for you to reach out?
I have.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Yes. I've friend requested him and just said, hey, have you heard anything? I know it's not really my business, but
But he put it out there.
Yeah, he did put it out there.
It's social media, so
right.
Has he responded at all?
No.
No. All right.
No. Not at all.
Well, I hope that we can find out what happened. Maybe he's a listener.
Maybe.
If you are a listener,
if that's you, sir, reach out.
Yeah. Although if he was a listener and he got a friend request from you, he'd know who you were and say, yes, please.
That is true.
Yeah, because who would turn you down, Julie?
Right.
Everyone wants Julie as a friend.
So not true. Okay. Listen to this. This was something that I started being about one thing and then became another thing for me. You'll see why. Over 49,000 adoptees in the U.S. live without citizenship.
How's that?
International adoptees. So born in South Korea in 1982 and adopted by a U.S. family in 1984, 37-year-old Leah has lived in the U.S. for 35 years. After finishing school, she joined the Navy and served for the next 10 years. In 2007, her unit was deployed to Iraq, but she was unable to go. Traveling to Iraq would require her to receive security clearance, and she did not have U.S. citizenship. The reason she did not is because her foster parents divorced shortly after adopting her without finishing her naturalization procedures.
Oh, no.
Yeah. She does not speak Korean, is legally regarded as a South Korean national with permanent residence in the U.S.
Huh.
So this has happened for a lot of people, and I suddenly realized it happened for me. So my dad and I were going to get our U.S. citizenship at the same time. And then he told me, oh, wait a minute. You were born internationally and adopted, but one of your adoptive parents was American. So there's this new law that says that you can automatically become a U.S. citizen just by virtue of that fact.
Because one of your parents was an American citizen.
Because one of my parents was an American citizen.
Right.
So which would have made me, I wouldn't have had to go through all the rigmarole I still had to go through something. I still had to fill out forms.
Yeah.
And I still had to pay $400 and did all this stuff. And I went in for my final meeting, and the guy said, oh, yeah, by the way, this doesn't apply to you.
What did he mean?
What do you mean it doesn't? During the Bill Clinton presidency in 2001, the Child Citizenship Act was enacted. This is what I was using. Automatically granting U.S. citizenship in cases of adoptees born overseas with at least one adoptive parent who is a U.S. citizen. That's me. Mm-hmm. But the law only applied to adoptees who were under 18 at the time, and it was enacted on February 27th, 2001. I was not made aware of that law until my very final meeting.
I see.
So I was well over 18 in 2001. So, and here's the kicker. I said, well, that sucks, but I would still like my U.S. citizenship, which costs $600. Can I apply this $400 I've already given you towards that? And they said, no.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So,
I always knew that as Americans we paid dearly for our citizenship. I had no idea there was actually a monetary
$1,000.
$1,000 is the amount.
Yeah. Isn't that terrible?
Yes.
Yes. So, and that is something that has still not been changed. And yeah, I mean, it's a bummer for me, but for a lot of people who were from countries where they don't speak the language, and it's not that easy.
So let me get this straight. So before that Clinton era law, you'd be like a man without a country if you were an adoptee.
You would be a citizen of whatever country you were born in.
Okay.
In my case, Australia.
Yeah. All right.
But because I mean, it's the same as you would have dual citizenship if
but okay, so say you had two American parents who adopted you from Australia. Would you still be an Australian citizen?
Yes.
And how would you be able to stay
unless they
here?
were military? Unless they were military.
But how would you be able to stay in the United States?
I would be a permanent resident.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
I mean, and I would probably eventually be able to get my citizenship as long as I was a good citizen.
Yeah.
But
by paying $1,000.
By paying $1,000. Yeah. So, it was funny because I thought it was an interesting article until I realized, wait a minute, that happened to me.
Wow.
Sucks.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I can see why that was 18 years ago. You're talking about 2001 was the law. So, wow.
Yeah. My dad was the one that told me about it. And I was, fair enough if that's the loophole. But why didn't they tell me about that at the first meeting?
Yes,
exactly. They had all my paperwork.
Before they collected that $400 payment. No, but I just read an article in the LA Times, I think it was today or Sunday maybe, that it was about a guy who didn't know that he was born in Mexico, thought he was an American citizen, and lost his job. And I didn't read the whole, the circumstances of which, but yeah, he had no idea. And he had been in the military here in America. And so you think.
In the military, that should, that should top everything else.
You
should automatically be a citizen if you're serving in the military.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It sort of reminded me of, some of the African Americans who fought in World War II. And then they fought for freedom, right? They fought and won the war, and then came back to Jim Crow laws. And, it's really horrible.
It is
horrible. So you go, come on, guy. This guy should not be fired for not being a citizen, and I don't think he can get a job now.
We should take a break.
All right, let's do that.
We're back.
Hello.
Story time.
Yay, part 2. I've been waiting a week for this.
Oh, I bet you've been with bated breath.
I don't even know what that is.
Me neither. I was thinking baited. Does it smell like fish?
No, it's BATED, bated breath, isn't it?
I don't know.
I'm going to have to look that up now.
Yeah, bated breath.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing that we need to know. Okay.
Well, we didn't have a corrections quarter.
Well,
so now we will.
do now. Okay. So this is part 2 of Michelle Tokar's interview. When last we left off, I believe I had asked her a vital question about her father, and now you're going to hear the answer to that.
Great. Let's do it.
Okay.
She wouldn't tell any of the players involved here about my existence now. So my cousin called my sister and told her.
Okay.
And at this point, my father still doesn't know I exist.
Are they
biological
still married?
No, they are not.
Okay. But they have 3 kids together.
Right.
Wow. But he didn't know you existed?
No.
Okay. Wow. So how did your sister react?
She was excited and happy and not entirely surprised. I guess another aunt had told her, hey, your mom gave up a baby for adoption. But for some reason, they always thought it was a boy, and it was, long time before that, and just a bunch of different things that she never thought much about it.
Right.
So at this point, she has to take it upon herself to tell our father that I exist.
Did she confront the mother or your mother yet?
I'm not really sure. She wasn't really talking to her at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
there seems
some drama.
To be some dysfunction, right?
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So she has to tell her father that I exist.
And how'd that go?
He was in shock. It took him quite a while to kind of come around and want to talk to me. And at this point, they're all living in Colorado too.
Okay. And you're in,
and I'm in Ohio.
Okay. All right.
So I haven't met anybody. I've just talked to them on the phone.
Okay. You mean now, even now you haven't?
Oh, yes. Now I have.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
At this point in the story, I'm sorry.
Okay. So you've talked to your sister. She told your father.
Yes.
And then what happened?
We decide that we have to meet. It was an immediate connection with us. We just really wanted to see each other and get to know each other. And we felt like so much time had been lost already.
Yeah.
So I got on a plane with my whole entire family and flew to her house and stayed with her.
Your sister?
Yes.
Okay.
About halfway there, I had almost a panic attack. Like, I'm taking my whole entire family to this woman's house who I've never met.
Yeah, that's huge to take everybody with you.
Yeah. So we get to the airport, we get off the plane, and my husband and daughters recognize her right away.
Because she looked like you?
Yes,
oh,
she does.
Wow.
She does look like me. We spend the whole weekend kind of staring at each other. So
yeah, I bet.
And at this point, 21 relatives come over.
Oh, okay.
We met 21 people that weekend, so it was a really big weekend. And it was a really incredible weekend, too, to meet people who looked like me and who looked like my daughters. It was.
And how long was this from the time that you found out you were adopted?
Probably about 2 months.
Okay. Jeez.
Yeah, wow. It was pretty quick.
Yeah.
She likes to tease me and say that she knew we were biological sisters right away because no one else she knows would be crazy enough to do that.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
But anyway, it's just, there's been so much going on since then. My biological grandmother was adopted.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was able to find, using DNA, I was able to find her mother, and we confirmed it through a birth certificate.
Oh, so you've become a genetic genealogist yourself.
Well, yes, very amateur, but yes.
Good for you, though. I mean, that's great. Going back to the weekend you spent with your sister, did you meet either of your parents?
I did, yes.
Okay.
Actually, I went and we drove to my mother's house.
Okay.
And I spent the day with her. I showed her a picture of me as a baby and my parents holding me. And I said, I'm sure they would want to thank you for the gift that you gave them. Mm-hmm. I know they really wanted to be parents, but they obviously weren't able. That's the only time she's really cried about the situation.
Okay, well, that's good. That means there's somebody in there.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. Hopefully.
Yeah, she's probably very guarded. I've got a feeling. Did she talk at all about what it was like at the time for her? Like what kind of a situation? Was she sent away or anything like that?
Yes, she was.
Okay.
She was sent to live with her older sister in Virginia, whose husband was in the Navy.
Okay. All right. So instantly she associates shame with being pregnant and giving up a child.
Yes.
Yeah. It's very difficult for them to let go of that. I've learned, no matter how much we tell them.
Yes. And this was the late 60s too.
Oh,
so,
yeah. That was the baby scoop era. Did she say that, was she ever given the option to keep you, or was it just, did she think she wanted to? Was she talked out of it? Was she given other options? Do we know?
The story I've heard since is that my biological father wanted to marry her, offered to marry her, went to her house to ask for her hand in marriage, and he was rebuffed by her father and mother and said, no, this isn't going to happen. And she was sent away. She told him that she had a miscarriage. So she wasn't, and she was told by her parents, you will give this baby up.
Yeah.
You're not going to bring it home.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
Yes.
For that era. So he didn't think it was weird that she was out of town for a good 6 months?
I think he did, but she was, they told him she's going to live with her sister. And after that, she went to college
Okay.
So, she was gone out of his life for a while. His brother died about 4 months after I was born.
Okay.
And that was kind of an impetus for her to come back and be, to reconnect with him. And that's when they got married.
But she never told him.
No.
That's the weirdest thing of all to me.
Yes.
If she married him and there's another full child of theirs out there. Huh. Did she address that at all?
I don't really know what her logic was behind that. Knowing my birth father the way I know him now,
yeah,
I'm sure he would have moved heaven and earth to find me.
Yeah.
He's told me that had he known that I would have never been adopted out.
Of course.
That's just not the way he wanted things to go. So,
yeah. Did you get together with them together at any point?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't know when the last time they talked was, but I'm sure it was long before I came into the picture.
Okay, so they've moved on.
Yes.
From each other, it sounds
Oh, yes,
like.
definitely.
So, and how long ago was that weekend with your sister?
That was October of 2016.
Oh, okay.
So since then, we have developed a really close relationship, especially with my sisters. Our daughters, we have all girls. My one sister has one boy, and that's the only boy. So.
You were an only child, right?
Yes.
So you have full sisters.
Yes.
Are you one of those that
incredible.
Always wanted a sister growing up?
Yes.
Me too.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's kind of the duality of the dream and the nightmare all in one,
Yes, absolutely.
You have the rug pulled out from under you about your own reality, but yes, the new reality is so good you hate to even feel that way.
Right. Now, how have you resolved your feelings about your parents keeping this from you?
That is a work in progress, you know. I'm sure because my mother was adopted that she had some strong feelings about that. I know she always felt kind of abandoned.
Maybe because she felt abandoned, she herself would rather have not been told, perhaps?
Yes, maybe that's what her logic was on that. I think also she had a deep need to be my mother, the one and only mother. Do you know what I mean? She didn't want me to think that there was somebody else out there who might be more of a mother than she would. So I think it was kind of a double-edged sword there, you know. She didn't want me to experience that pain, but also she wanted to kind of keep control of the situation.
Right. And she had no reason to think that DNA testing would come into play.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't wrap my head around that. Except the only thing that may make sense to me is that it was important to me when I had my kids to have these biological people related to me.
Yes.
That are of me because I'm adopted.
Yes.
So it was to me, it was just so magical. So maybe for her, she could suspend the disbelief, you know what I mean? And just for everybody to believe that, maybe she just wanted to experience being a biological mother.
Yes, I think that's exactly it. Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. And so both of your sisters you've connected with.
Yes.
That's great.
Very much. That's
wonderful. And then how often do you talk to your parents?
My biological dad, I'm in pretty close contact with. We go and stay at his house sometimes when we go out there. I find that I have a lot more in common with him than I do any of the other parents.
Yeah, it's usually
the ones I grew up with, or my mother. Yes. So I talk to him pretty regularly, probably once a week.
Okay.
Yeah, we're pretty close, I'd say, overall.
So now tell me about your adoptive father's reaction.
I called him and I said I found out I was adopted, and he verified that. I tried to get him to fill in the blanks, and I'm not sure if there's some health issues going on. He lives out of state. Just very strange reactions to things. I kind of feel like I've had to move on beyond that relationship a little bit.
Yeah. What was your relationship like with your parents as a child?
I was pretty close to my dad.
Okay.
But he wasn't a parent per se. He kind of went along with whatever my mom wanted, and that was the way it was.
Okay. So she ruled the roost, but he was more of a friend, maybe?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So he's out of state. You obviously aren't very close anymore.
Right.
I wonder what's going on with him.
Yeah. I don't really know. I have a cousin who has been in contact with him briefly, and she said, I think he's doing okay. He seems fine, but...
He might be kind of in denial. He might just be pushing it to the back of his mind and pretending it didn't happen. That's pretty common, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do with that?
Yeah. I guess you're never going to, obviously you're never going to figure out who your mom's parents were since there's no DNA to work with.
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
That's sad. That's too bad.
It is. It makes me kind of sad, actually, to think she went her whole life without ever having a biological relative.
Yeah, but I think maybe that was kind of a self-preservation thing. Maybe she really, because she didn't tell you, maybe she told herself that it didn't matter. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? God, we're all so different in how we process this stuff. Because the brother I grew up with is basically has denied that he's even adopted.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, his family didn't even know. He's the mothers of his children, and his children didn't know that I am not genetically related to them. I had to tell them.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's never occurred to him to bring it up. I just thought that was, I guess that's his choice, but I don't think it's fair.
No. Well, kids process that so differently, too.
Right. And, but I think it's, if they know, and I think I have to commend my parents for telling us right from before we could understand, that we were adopted, even though, so it wasn't a weird thing, but at the same time, maybe because of it, I knew I was different.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the double-edged sword too. Because I think if they hadn't told me, I probably would have figured it out.
Yeah.
In my case, because I'm so different from them. Like you said you at least looked like your parents, whereas I was such the black sheep in my family.
Did you look differently or act differently or both?
All of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just, one of these things is not like the others. I mean, to a point where they're super conservative and, kind of withholding, and whereas I'm the biggest loudmouth in the world, and I don't keep secrets, and I don't believe in secrets, and all this stuff. So that was probably difficult for them. Because in fact, I know that there were family secrets that were kept from me because I couldn't keep a secret. I found stuff out about my mom that I never knew after she died. And that was for a reason, I'm sure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So where are we now? Are you, what are you doing with this information?
I'm trying to process it all still.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to balance the kind of what I like to call a duality of discovery. Mm. I feel really lucky to have had the life that I've had.
Yes.
But there's a lot of grief. Yeah. It just never really ends. I've kind of had to grieve the identity that I've lost.
Yeah.
And grieve the life that I could have had with my biological siblings.
Right. Oh, are you in any groups or anything or therapy or anything like that? Have you talked to anybody?
Yes, all the above.
Good.
I'll take as much help as I can get.
Good for you.
I'm in a late discovery adoptee group forum on Facebook.
Cool.
So that's super helpful. Mm-hmm. I've been trying to find people locally to connect with. Patty's been a great source. We actually went to Danny Shapiro's book signing a few weeks back.
Really?
For Book Inheritance, yes.
Oh, I love me some Danny Shapiro.
So just doing stuff like that. And luckily, my husband is a psychology professor.
Oh,
so
good.
talk about being married to the right person, you know?
Oh, my
so
gosh, yes.
yeah. He's really
Interesting.
helped a lot.
I bet he has.
Yeah.
Whoa. Wow. He's like he's got a case study in his own house. I think you're the first. I've talked to some MBEs before, but I think you're the first I didn't know I was adopted person that I've talked to, I think.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for sharing that. People are so fascinating, but I really, really appreciate your openness for sharing that with me and with the listeners.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, and thanks for making the time, and thanks for listening. All right.
Wow, that was good.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah.
We love hearing stories.
We sure do. Keep telling us your stories, guys. Reach out to me. I appreciate it.
I think people feel like this is a safe space to talk
I hope
because
so.
they hear how respectfully you talk with them and the great response from the listeners.
Yeah.
You know, I think everybody, it's a real supportive group.
Yeah,
you
I think
know?
so too.
And I love that about
I will agree with that.
Yeah.
Hey, before we go, we want to mention one more time about our new Patreon.
Yes, starting next month, starting in January, the beginning of the year, with our first podcast, we're going to launch a Patreon campaign where we basically ask our listeners who would like to contribute to what we do here to join our Patreon page and get some benefits for doing so.
Get some bonus stuff. Keep your suggestions coming in of things that you would like to be included in the different tiers. In case it's something that we've never thought of, but you have, we will consider it.
Yeah, and remember, we're not charging for this podcast. This podcast will remain free to the public.
Mm-hmm.
We're just asking for some support so that we can improve our equipment and make the podcast even better. And for helping us out, we will offer additional
some
content.
VIP stuff.
Yes.
You know.
And on that note, I am Richard Castle, and I am, you can follow me on, I don't know what you can do, but you can follow me on the Twitter at Castle Songs or go to my newly designed website, richardcastle.com.
I'm Julie Dixon Jackson. Follow me on Twitter at Jules Jackson with 2 O's. Follow the podcast on Twitter at CutOff Jeans Pod. Join the Facebook group, the all-important Facebook group, CutOff Jeans Podcast. Join the conversation. It's a lot of fun. Send me an email, julesjackson@cutoffjeans.com. And that is it. We have one more episode until the end of the year, and that's coming up next week.
Is it really time for that already? The end of the year.
It's the end of the year, almost. We have one more.
And you know what? Even though it's been a whole year, where is my truth?
The truth is in your jeans.